states in between waking and sleeping. There's so much to be seen and learned from there and felt there. And the feeling in particular has massive significance.
Kennst du das, wenn du zurückblickst auf dein bisheriges Leben, du die einzelnen Wegpunkte miteinander verbindest und feststellst, dass alles genau so kommen musste, wie es gekommen ist und dass irgendwie alles Sinn macht? Und das rückblickend gesehen vor allem die schmerzhaften Erfahrungen und die größten Challenges so ganz besonders wichtig waren. Herzlich willkommen zu 1000 First Steps, deinem Podcast für das Größte in dir. Mein Name ist Jakob Horvath und ich blicke oft zurück und denke mir nur, what a ride. Was für ein unglaubliches Mysterium das Leben nicht ist. So sehr ich eine Erfahrung auch verflucht habe, als ich sie erlebt habe, so dankbar konnte ich dann im Nachhinein oft dafür sein. Und wahrscheinlich spüre ich deshalb auch eine so große Resonanz zu der Geschichte von Lucas Miller, den ich dir heute im Podcast vorstelle. Lucas arbeitet als Dreamcoach und versprüht eine solche Freude am Leben in diesem Interview, und seine Lebenserfahrungen und die Fülle an Bewusstsein, die Lucas in dieses Interview mitbringt, die haben mich genauso berührt und inspiriert wie das, was er über Träume selbst zu sagen hat. Deshalb war es mir wichtig, auch seiner persönlichen Story genügend Raum zu geben, bevor wir über das Dreamcoaching zu sprechen kommen. Lucas teilt mit uns, wie ihn der tiefe physische und emotionale Schmerz seines früheren Lebens zu einem finanziell sehr erfolgreichen, aber ausgebrannten CEO gemacht hat, der 15 Stunden am Tag, 6 Tage die Woche gearbeitet hat, um sich sein teures Leben leisten zu können.
I mean, I was putting my own happiness and my own life off until I made a certain amount of money, until I had a certain amount of things, and could feel safe and lovable. And it was years later that I saw that part of this was tied to wanting the approval of my father.
Und was dann passiert ist, hat für Lucas alles geändert. Eine Serie schwerer Unfälle, Begegnungen und Synchronizitäten, die ihn auf einen völlig neuen Weg gebracht haben. Und Träume, die ihm auf diesem Weg zum leitenden Nordstern wurden. So hat Lucas im Dreamcoaching seine große Lebensaufgabe gefunden. Das heißt, ganz kurz zusammengefasst, er hilft Menschen dabei, aus ihren Träumen wertvolle Erkenntnisse für ihr Leben zu ziehen.
There's so much to it. It is absolutely a sacred, beautiful, transformative practice, which is one of the deepest and dearest loves of my life.
Lucas zeigt uns, wie wir lernen können, bewusster zu träumen und die tiefgründigen Botschaften zu verstehen, die hinter unseren Träumen liegen. Und wie du deine Träume nutzen kannst, um dir das Leben deiner Träume zu erschaffen. Freu dich auf eine völlig neue Perspektive in Bezug auf diesen mystischen Bewusstseinszustand zwischen Wach-Sein und Tiefschlaf. Ich wünsche dir eine wunderschöne Zeit mit diesem Gespräch. Möge es neue Räume in dir öffnen und dich weiterbringen. Wir haben das Interview übrigens auch auf Video aufgezeichnet, im wunderschönen Wohnzimmer von Lucas. Du findest es auf meinem YouTube-Kanal und den Link dazu natürlich in den Shownotes. Schau dort gerne mal vorbei, abonniere meinen Kanal, wenn du möchtest, um am Laufenden zu bleiben. Ich freue mich natürlich auch über deine Gedanken zu dieser Folge auf Instagram @jakob.horvath oder per Mail an mail@1000firststeps.com. Und jetzt ganz viel Freude mit Lucas Miller.
Wow, this coconut water is so amazing.
It is. Wow. Cheers.
Cheers. Pura vida.
Pura vida. Lucas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for the invitation. I mean, we're sitting here in your beautiful space, the house that you're renting here close to Uvita.
Mm-hmm.
So if you walk outside, you can see the jungle and the ocean and the sun rising and
Yeah.
You immerse yourself in nature here, don't you?
Yeah. It's a beautiful place to live. I'm super grateful.
Beautiful. And now you're here sipping on our coconuts, recording this podcast interview. I'm so excited to talk a little bit more about your story, your life, but also what you're doing, like what you're sharing nowadays.
Great.
And what I felt from the conversations we already had, sitting around the campfire the other night, is that all that you experienced, the hardships, those accidents that you don't call accidents anymore today, and more, has led you to where you are now, you sharing out of your full potential, like sharing with the world, and doing what you're doing, which is dream work.
Yeah.
You get a lot into shamanism and life coaching.
That's right. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into all of that with you. Especially the dream work part. I found this is something very, very interesting to me personally, and also I think our listeners can take a lot out of what you're doing, how you work with dreams, what we can understand, what kind of messages are delivered through our dreams.
Yeah.
There's so much interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Fantastic. Me too.
Nice.
Oh, I love how you set that up. It's just perfect. I especially liked that you haven't really focused so much on my story, you know? For so much of my life, that was a big part of my persona. Yeah. This sharing with everybody this victim story that I had, you know, things that had happened in my life that were painful or difficult, traumatic, and I, often would tell people pretty quickly after I met them about all of this pain and blah, blah, blah.
And it was a lot of pain. I mean, you've been in pain for 13 years, right?
Yeah. And I also really loved how you got, perhaps partly from our conversation, that the more important thing is what we've learned through that experience. And in my experience, a big part of that shift was being able to see that everything happened for me, not to me. And that I wasn't a victim. All of these things in my life experience, and that continue to happen in my life experience, serve me in an absolutely beautiful, magical, and perfect way.
Take us back a little bit, Lucas, back to a point in your life where you were not able to see it that way, where something happened to you. Maybe your first accident, or wherever you feel is good for you to start with, to give our listeners an idea of where you're coming from and what kind of trauma and hardship you've experienced that eventually led you to where you are now.
It's interesting, as you say that, what comes to mind is when I ran away from home when I was 17, and in the years after that, not remembering anything hardly at all before the age of 17. So it was quite odd being with my sister who would talk about our childhood experiences, and for me it was just I had no connection with what happened in my childhood.
How so?
I had no memory of it.
Why? Was that something? Where did that come from? Why did you have no memory about your childhood?
Well, it was years later that I, after many, many years of studying to try and figure out what the world was all about and learn more about myself, that I came across some teachings that suggested that when there's real painful experiences and trauma, the psyche blocks it out. I don't know if the psyche is the right word, but something in us blocks out those memories and those feelings and pushes it down so that we don't experience it, we don't feel it. And so it's there, but it's buried deep in the subconscious.
Like a protection mechanism.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I saw after I had some physical injuries and some things that happened later in life, after a severe physical injury, the body does the same thing. For example, when I broke my neck in this one experience, I couldn't feel anything. And I knew I was severely injured. And in fact, I thought I was going to die, but there was no pain. It was really odd,
Your
right?
body was blocking out the pain.
Yeah, yeah. So the body does the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I would like to jump right into, because tell us a little bit, where were you back then in your life? You were a successful CEO of a tech company in Silicon Valley. Tell us maybe a little bit about that, how you felt, how much you worked, and what happened then that really helped you to, to me, it sounded like there was an awakening call for you.
Yeah. This accident that happened in the midst of what I call a deferred life program that I was on. By that I mean I was putting my own happiness and my own life off until I made a certain amount of money, until I had a certain amount of things, and could feel safe and lovable. And it was years later that I saw that part of this was tied to wanting the approval of my father, who in my eyes was successful, having been a businessman and having left when I was a young boy. And there was 11 years that I didn't speak with him. And so I was later able to see that, maybe if I became successful, he'd be proud of me and interested in spending time with me. That wasn't in my awareness as I was in this deferred life program. I was just in it.
So it's kind of autopilot what was running there.
Yeah, not self-aware. I was just driven to become successful. In those days, more out of spite, I think, and pain and fear than much else. So, yeah, you asked, take us back to that time in my life and that experience. Yeah. Part of that was...
You were working a lot, right?
I was working a ton, working, 12 to 15 hours, 6 days a week. And usually a couple of days a month at least, I would do all-nighters, like literally work all night long because there was so much work to do. I would just work through the entire night. And at the same time, was having success financially and, increasing my quality of life on the external, moving into more expensive places and having more expensive things, which added to the necessity of working more and more to make more and more to maintain my lifestyle. So on the outside, there was this appearance that, people saw me as successful. And on the inside, I was really in a lot of pain and disconnected from myself and tired and lonely.
You were, I think, CEO of a tech company. You were selling and providing very expensive sound systems to broadcasting companies in Hollywood and film companies, stuff like that.
Yeah. The career started in Hollywood, designing and selling broadcast systems for the studios in Hollywood. Started in that in my early 20s, and moved to San Francisco to do that for another company, and then became a partner in a company that did that. And so helped build that company for 7 years. And at the height of that pain and the experience of all that work, and being disconnected from a beautiful wife that I had married 6 years before, who I wasn't spending time with or taking care of, outside of financially, in large part. We went on a vacation finally, and then I had this experience where there was this accident in which I sustained a lot of injuries. So that ended up being an entry to a series of catalysts that transformed my life. Interestingly enough, after almost dying in that experience, I came back, still not quite getting it. And I realized I almost died. And I've been working so hard, only owning a part of this company. So I put all my money in and started my own company.
Even more work.
Even more work. And my wife saw that, and I didn't ask her about it. I was making a lot of unilateral decisions without asking for her input. And with everything else that was going on, she just decided to leave the house and the relationship while I started that company. And then as that company grew, a few years later, I was in another accident, re-injured myself even worse. And it was after that I really started looking at what I was creating in my life. And why, and taking a hard, deep, internal look at where there's accountability on my part for what I was creating in my life. And perhaps it wasn't just because everybody else was doing stuff to me. Maybe there was a way that I was taking part in everything that was going on, and that's when things really, really turned around. And I started a number of practices to change my life.
I'd love to hear more about those practices and also about this transformational phase. But what instantly came to my mind, you were just laughing, like really, when you said I was injuring myself so hard, and you were like laughing all over your face. Like today, when you look back, you're able to look back in gratitude.
Absolutely, yeah.
But how was it back then?
I was in that victim mode, totally, like just, and at the same time, kind of even laughing then at the hilarity of all the crazy things that had happened over and over and over again. Like as soon as I started to make a bunch of money, something would happen and the rug would get pulled out from under me. As soon as a relationship that I was in started to feel really good, my experience was that the rug got pulled out from under me. In my mind, that's how I saw it. As soon as something started to feel good, it would end. And that happened over and over and over again. So that was my normal in those days.
And what really was the catalyst for that shift? Because you said the accident already happened at the first place, where you almost died in a boat accident. And then you still didn't get it, you said. And you still had kind of to experience that lesson a second time. Then you had another accident.
Yeah.
What was it that caused the shift in the second or after the second accident when you finally got it?
You know, it's that so many people describe it as a rock bottom moment. It was having lost everything, in one way of looking at it, how I saw it in those days. You know what comes to mind when you ask me that question? It's really interesting. What was the major catalyst was one person in my life who I magically met. This is after the skiing accident that I was in. Even though I could barely walk and I was in massive pain, I magically met a lady who invited me to go to this festival in the forest in Oregon. So I went, and I was walking down this path, and this man comes up in front of me, a former client of mine in Beverly Hills who I hadn't seen in 20 years. Shows up out of the blue. A man that I really connected with. We were good friends, but we had lost touch 20 years ago. And he showed up just like in a dream. And he said, you know, Lucas. And we connected, and I said, yeah, Malcolm, you know, what are you doing here in Oregon in the forest? And I shared with him some of the experience that I had had, and he said, well, I think I know why I'm here. I had a dream to come here, and I didn't know why, but I'm following my dreams, and I believe that I came here to invite you to come and participate in an ayahuasca retreat. That happened a few weeks later. I went with him. He came with me to the jungle, and I had my first sacred ceremony with ayahuasca. And that experience, and in particular, this one man, one person reached out to me, saw me in the depths of my pain, disconnection, and trauma, and had the love, the capacity, and wherewithal to take me on a journey towards healing, happiness, and loving myself and everything else for no reason.
Wow. So, wow. A big question that's coming up here is what happened in that ayahuasca ceremony. I mean, I guess many of our listeners know what ayahuasca is. It's a sacred plant, a mixture of two sacred plants from the Amazon rainforest, one of the most powerful hallucinogens known to mankind.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful medicine plants.
Yeah.
What happened in that ayahuasca ceremony?
It was a rough ride. And the next 50 ceremonies were rough rides, you know. And I say rough because the physical experience and what was going on in my mind was difficult to see and go through. And at the same time, it was absolutely beautiful and transformative, healing and helpful. What happened was I saw, it was like a dream after I drank the medicine and they opened up the ceremony and the medicine started setting in. For me and for everybody it's different. You know, their experience, just like life, everyone has their own experience. Same in ceremony, in sacred ceremony.
Yeah.
For me, at that time, it was like being immersed into a super, super vivid dream. And for example, I remember that first night, one of the chapters of that dream I was standing underneath a cauldron that for some reason I felt held the pain and suffering of the world.
A cauldron?
Like a giant metal thing that you cook stuff in, you know, a cauldron.
Yeah.
But it was huge. And for some reason I walked up underneath it in this vision in the ceremony. Yeah. And I was holding it and above my head, and then the bottom of it opened and all the pain and suffering of the world poured into me, and I felt it, all this pain, like really, really viscerally.
Okay, that sounds like a rough ride.
It was a rough ride, yeah, going into, like feeling compelled to do that, and I mean, I didn't know what to do with it, you know. Luckily, at the retreat, there were facilitators there, in particular a doctor named Gabor Mate, who was helping facilitate these retreats at the time. And he helped me through that, and there were several other visions like that, super vivid dreams that were odd, and I couldn't understand what they meant. So we had an integration discussion, you know, the next day, and he said, Lucas, you know, I'm curious when the first time in your life might have been that you felt you were taking on pain and suffering of the world. And without hesitation, I said, well, that's when my dad left. You know?
When your dad left?
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's how it works. And, you know, it worked for me, at least, as I would have these super vivid dreams. They would look one way on a literal sense, and then Gabor, and then Malcolm, who was also there, who later became my not just my life coach, but my dream coach and mentor. My dream coach, I worked with Malcolm for like 6 or 7 years doing dream work, which works the same way. So
the man who invited you to your first ayahuasca ceremony has become your coach when it came to dream coaching and understanding your dreams better, which ultimately led you to what you're doing today, dream coaching. So Malcolm has been like an angel for you, like somebody who just popped up out of the blue and shifted and transformed your life, or helped you transforming it. Yeah,
I've used that same word, you know, in my reflections about Malcolm. It does feel that way. So dear to my heart that he showed up and has helped me the way he has.
What was one of the most powerful insights that you got from the following ayahuasca experiences that you had about your past, about the integration of the pain, the physical pain that you suffered?
That's a big one, right? And this has been, for me, it's been now 8 years that I've been doing this work, and there's been a whole lot of ceremonies during that time. And the experience has shifted over time. I think the biggest thing for me has been what I call a reframe. It's also a practice I help people with in my life coaching work and dream work coaching. And I'm reminded of a quote by this man that I have read several of his books and really have a lot of respect for. His name is Greg Braden. And in one of his books, there was this quote that I never forgot, and I've often re-quoted it, which is that wisdom is the memory of a previously traumatic or painful experience which has lost its emotional charge. So this reframe is, you know, a technique by which we go into an experience that happened in the past, and through different practices and techniques, we're able to actually see it in a different way. and look at it through different eyes from a different paradigm.
Yeah.
For example, instead of seeing that I was victimized by this and it totally sucked, to see that this happened for my own well-being and for the work that I'm going to be doing in the future in my life to help others.
Yeah. And you called it in one of our conversations, you said those were not accidents, those were initiations.
Yeah.
I really loved that. I was thinking a lot about that recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that's a perfect example, I think, of a reframe, right? To see that all these things that have happened, quote unquote, to me, another way of looking at it is they happened for me.
How did it happen for you? So what was it that today is the most precious, most powerful gift that all those hardships have given you?
You know, what came to mind when you said that is what you know, today, what's the most precious gift that experience has brought to me? It's this present moment. Being there, really present, and appreciating the moment right now. You know, having almost died 4 times now.
And you're laughing again.
Yeah, I've come really close to that, you know, that, and been able to look back and see, wow, I literally almost died, you know, and up until the point that happened, I was caught up in all these things that, from that point of view, didn't even really matter. And while caught up in all these things, you know, and a lot of those things, looking back, I wasn't even really there while I was in them. I wasn't really with the people who were in my life. Even sitting in front of somebody, speaking with them, my mind would be off on a million other directions, or at least, you know, 5 or 7.
Yeah.
And I wasn't present. I wasn't present with myself. Because it didn't feel good to be with myself, because I wasn't fixed yet.
That was why you were distracting yourself in your thoughts and with your... I think this is something that so many people can relate to, me included. Like, how often do we get completely distracted and off track, and we know this is not good for us and we still do it?
Yeah.
Or, you know, being really present with somebody in a conversation. By the way, I just want to acknowledge your presence in this conversation is breathtaking. It's beautiful. I love it. It's really, you know, I really feel these moments one after another, you being completely present and sharing your story. Thank you. Just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate that.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
You know.
What was one of them? You said there were a couple of practices you did after your second accident that really helped you to catalyst and to empower the shift inside yourself and open you up to a new way of seeing yourself and life and things.
Yeah.
What were the practices, or what was, maybe you can share one of the practices that helped you the most?
Okay. I'm just going to say what comes up, you know.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me the most was someone invited me to go to this, like a hippie commune kind of place. And it wasn't a commune, it was like a retreat center in Northern California, where there were these hot springs. And the doctors had told me that if I went into super hot water and then out of the hot water into cold water. It would help with the inflammation in my neck and the energy circulation, and that would be a good practice for me to do.
Let me just jump into this so that we understand what's going on. You were in pain for 13 years, you said, with your neck.
Yeah.
And with the inflammation, like the results of the boat accident, just to understand what you were going through.
Yeah. Yeah, there were 2 pieces of the vertebrae which had broken off and were pinching against my spinal cord. And
the hot springs were about to help.
And you know, it wasn't just the hot springs, it was yoga. After the skiing accident I was in, the spinal surgeon said, if you don't have this surgery, removing 2 vertebrae from the neck and putting in a plate, I call it a dissection infusion surgery, they said I may not walk in the future. It's likely I'd be paralyzed. And it just didn't feel right. You know, I had the surgery scheduled, and it was all approved, and insurance was going to cover it, and it just didn't feel right. I felt like it's likely I'm going to live to be really old, and having that stuff in my body in my 90s and 100s, then I may really regret having that surgery. And I just followed that guidance and initially decided to start yoga every day. I thought, we'll just put off the surgery. I'll go to yoga at least for 90 days in a row and see if that helps mitigate the pain. And someone at the yoga studio told me about this place where you can go for a hot, cold plunge. So I went up there into the mountains to this place where there's these hot springs and the cold plunge. And then they also had a meditation pool, like a hot water meditation pool where people would just sit and meditate. So I would go in the hot, cold plunge. I would sit in the sauna for a period of time, and then I would go in the meditation pool. And I started doing that every weekend, usually Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I would go to this place. And on Sundays, they had this temple where people sang mantras. Do you know what that is? Kirtan?
Yeah.
Where people sing these names of God. And something about that, not even knowing what the words meant or what these mantras meant. Every time I would go there for the Sunday mantra, the kirtan, I would cry.
Wow.
I'd be singing these mantras, Om Namah Shivaya or Sitaram, or not knowing anything about what
they meant.
Hinduism and what they meant, and I would just, tears would come down. And I came to see that when there's tears, healing is taking place. And then they had people giving massage there, so I would go and get a massage, and someone would work on my body, and I would cry the whole time.
Oh my God.
I'd go to the meditation pool and just sit in silence, and I'd be crying the whole time.
Okay. Wow, what a healing experience.
Yeah. So this place became a sanctuary for me. I was still doing my corporate job in Silicon Valley, and then Friday afternoon, I'd head up there and hit these practices solid until Monday morning.
So beautiful. This is also an experience that I can relate to, the gatherings in the kirtan, like a group of people, 20, 30, 40 people gathering, singing mantras, repeating them all over again, and the energy that is it's undescribable. It is, not only once I had tears in my eyes too. Just because there was so much love in these circles, and through the music and the vibration of the music and the energy that is transferred. It's beautiful. Let us fast forward, Lucas. I think we can talk hours about this. It's so fascinating, and also your story. But let us fast forward to the point where you started to dream coach, because I think this is another very interesting topic that I would like to talk about with you.
I find it much more interesting,
actually. Well, okay.
I mean,
what is dream coaching? What does a dream coach do?
Well, there's so much to it. It is absolutely a sacred, beautiful, transformative practice, which is one of the deepest and dearest loves of my life. There's so much to it.
How would you explain it to somebody who has never heard about dream coaching?
Okay, so most people have had dreams at one time or another.
Right.
The way that the practice works is we help people as a coach make that connection. If sometimes people come to me and they're not having recall of dreams, or maybe they've never remembered a dream ever. So the first step is catching the dreams and working with people to teach them techniques and ways of being and practices to be able to catch the dreams and remember their dreams when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah, because everybody's dreaming, right? But often we don't remember them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say. So that's the first step. Is teaching people what it takes to actually remember the dreams.
And why is that important, to remember the dream?
Well, so glad you asked. So, because there's so much there for us in which is communicated by what I call the mother, this amazing everything, this loving being. Some people call it one's higher self. Some people call it God. Some people call it their soul. Who knows? And as we were talking about the other day, why I say who knows, like everything that I say, I see it from that frame of reference. When I share my experience, I'm sharing my experience.
Yeah.
I'm more and more coming to see that I really don't know anything.
Yeah.
I've had experiences, we've all had experiences, and I keep coming back to who knows,
who knows? Okay, so you're sharing from your experience and therefore inviting other people to make maybe their own experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And this experience has been absolutely transformative for me and so many people around the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah.
Going into these liminal realms, the liminal state, these states in between waking and sleeping, or within the world of dreaming in sleep. There's so much to be seen and learned from there and felt there. And the feeling in particular has massive significance. And that's a whole nother thing maybe we can touch on in a bit. But so the first step is getting people to remember their dreams. And then after that, I invite them to record their dreams every night. And this is exactly what I did with my coach for the 6 or 7 years we worked together.
Yeah.
And so then the dreams start coming through, and you wake up in the morning with a voice recorder and you record the dreams that came through, just exactly what you saw. And over time, it becomes more and more consistent, and people will often have 2, 3, 5, or 7 or 8 dreams, separate little movies in one night. And they are just that, they're a movie, right? Which to most people, without having a coach, or studied or been trained in this work, they'll see it on the literal level. For example, it's very common for people to have dreams of being in a vehicle.
Yeah.
So someone will share a dream. I'm in a van. I'm going down this downhill. It's a windy road. My brother's driving the van, and I'm trying to hit the brakes, but they're not working, and I'm feeling out of control. That's the dream.
Yeah. So that there is a message in this dream.
Yeah.
What is the message?
The message would be, and it's also important to know that these symbols in dreams, the way that the mother or our higher self communicates to us through this language of metaphor in dreams varies from person to person. She may use the ocean to represent emotion for some people, and for someone else it might feel more like their subconscious when they really feel into it.
So like drowning in an ocean would be being overwhelmed with one's emotions, for instance.
Right.
Something like this.
Right. Or or for someone else it might mean diving into the subconscious.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work is the coach asking questions when someone relays their movies, their dreams. So what does the van feel like to you? If that is a metaphor for something, what do you think your higher self is trying to show you using the van as a symbol? And then we'll get their feedback. And then I will share often sort of the universal archetypical symbology of many of these things, which amazingly, a lot of the same symbols mean the same things for most people.
The archetypes.
The archetypes and the symbols in dreams. It's like this language of dreams, which this, whatever we want to call it, uses in a loving way to help point to things that are often in our subconscious or in our waking awareness or energetically connected to our experience in life, to help us see either what's going on right now or what may be there for us in the future, or some remnants from experiences in the past that are still holding an energetic charge, all with the apparent purpose of helping us see and feel these things so that we can do something with them that's useful to transform our lives and shift into greater states of harmony, love, and happiness.
So this would mean every person has one's own path, one's own journey, and the dream is kind of illuminating this path in a way.
Yeah.
So tell you on your unique path what the next steps could be, could go even that far.
Absolutely. Yeah. As in the example I just shared, the van, for most people, when they're having a dream of being in a vehicle, the vehicle represents their forward momentum in life. What's driving them?
Yeah.
And so what that vehicle looks like, the color of the vehicle, if it's clean or if it's dirty, if it's a really big vehicle, and this kind of shows there's a lot of momentum behind this driving force. If someone else is driving the vehicle, which often happens, then it shows that there's perhaps maybe someone else that's influencing, or we've allowed them to take over where we're going in our life. Or maybe it's not actually the person, maybe it's the feeling that symbol of that person represents, which is connected to this driving force in our life.
And the brakes don't work because you lost control?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not just the, the mental plane in the dream that's significant in making these connections from a metaphorical point of view. It's really important, the feelings that are evoked in the dreams. So in the coaching practice, we ask the clients to really connect with how it felt. How does that feel as you're in a van out of control, for example? Or how does it feel to be in an amazing house with super high ceilings and crystals all around and beautiful things and in absolute abundance? This is another amazing example. I like to also point to the positives, right? Because it's not just the shadow work, right? Pointing to stuff that needs to get cleaned up for us to live a more abundant, joyful, harmonious, loving life. It's been my experience, and with many of the people that I work with, over time, after that first part happens, right? We go more into the shadow, we see these things. That's usually what happens first, is it points to things that are holding us back from living in these more harmonious, elevated states of consciousness and harmony and happiness. And along the way, the mother, or our higher self, brings us dreams that evoke a feeling of abundance, a feeling of being absolutely accepted, a feeling of being absolutely safe.
So maybe some people wake up in the morning and experience for the first time in their life this feeling of being accepted, or this abundant feeling. And it was due to the dream. Like
just last night I had a call with a client who, in the weeks preceding, she was concerned because she was losing the home that she was living in. She was asked to move out, and she was concerned she was going to be homeless, and just really upset about it, and a lot of stress. And she had this dream of being in this house high up on a hill. It was a beautiful house with bright lights, white walls, beautiful stuff all around it, with some of her childhood friends that she used to play with that helped her feel happy and safe and connected. And she met a lady there who was a homeowner who invited her to stay and told her she was more than welcome to be there. So she had this experience in the dream, in the midst of all this turmoil that was happening in her life. And she's been someone I've been working with weekly for now like 5 months. She's been doing this dream work consistently with fantastic results. And in our call last night, she told me, not only did we go through that dream, but she also shared with me that a few nights after having that dream, someone called her and invited her to move into a wonderful place to live, where she felt totally accepted, totally comfortable, all of her needs are met, and it's not expensive.
Because she learned to channel the energies that came through the dream into her material world, kind of.
Yeah, I it's interesting you say that. That she learned how to do that. That's how I used to see it. Because, and perhaps that's also true, right? The dreams show us things that help our mind see things in a different way. Perhaps to open up to different possibilities, to reframe, to get out of the victim mode, to consider that, wow, maybe everything could be totally amazing, and I could live in an amazing place overlooking the ocean in tropical paradise, not working very hard, for not much money, with a bunch of people I love around me, which, happened in my waking dream.
What a dream.
But more significantly, I think, than the mental aspect of it, of seeing another way of looking at things, it's the feelings that are evoked in that dream experience.
Yeah.
What I'm coming to see more and more in my life and work is that, and there are other teachers who teach this practice and apparent truth. Joe Dispenza is one of them, who says that the people create affirmations that I am this, I am abundant, I am wealthy, I am, or they visualize something that may happen in the future. But what really brings it down, he says, and many spiritual teachers have shared this, it's the feeling.
Yeah, right.
It's feeling like it already happened, like deeply feeling like you've moved into that house. Everything is amazing. I'm totally connected, and I'm really, really, really believing it. I see it. I know it as if it's already happened. I feel it in my bones.
And I'm already grateful for it.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, gratitude practice is so powerful.
So that sounds very similar to an ayahuasca experience.
Yeah.
Like being conscious, a conscious dreamer, let's call it that way, really knowing to understand the messages that your dreams deliver and starting to work with it and kind of transcend them in a material reality is quite similar to experiences we have in ayahuasca ceremonies.
Absolutely. And this is why my dreams literally brought me here. I'm literally following my dreams. I had a dream that I flew to Costa Rica on a certain date, March 16th. So I bought tickets to come. The next day they closed the border. And I had a dream of someone wearing a particular ring. And the next day I saw a photo of her on Facebook.
That's amazing.
And was invited to go and live on a property where she lived. After that, I had a dream with a view that is the view, the ocean view we have here. And felt like I would be living somewhere in a house with that view. And then magically I met some people, and that happened. So all of these things happen with a feeling, a connection that happened in the dream that I felt. And as I do it more and more, I'm absolutely trusting it and following that guidance. So literally following my dreams, living the life of my dreams. And so now that I'm here working on this retreat center, helping support people who come for work with ayahuasca, and after they leave, supporting them and teaching them a practice of dream work, which, as you said, it works the same way. The medicine and the ceremonies and that practice can open up a doorway to connect with the subconscious and the vastness of a greater experience of reality and what may be there. Similarly, the dream work does that same thing. What's great about the dream work is you can do it any night, wherever you are, absolutely free.
Sounds like a dream.
It is.
Lucas, there's what is a very concrete tool that you can share maybe with our audience? Because I think many people are at least as interested as I am now to dig deeper and learn more about it. What is a tool that you can share to get started? Like, let's say, to remember your dreams more vividly, more clearly. What is it that helps?
Intention is, I think, the most important thing with any sacred practice or ceremony. I look at the dream work as a sacred practice and ceremony. And so before going into that ceremony, while we're sleeping, setting an intention at night. Tonight, I'm going to remember my dreams. Tonight, I'm going to wake up in the dream. If one's at a place where they want to start experiencing lucid dreams, which is a whole nother thing. And so going into the experience at night with a clear intention, calming the mind before the bedtime starts, so not looking at your phone in the hours before sleep, not on the computer for a couple hours before you go to bed, really treating it as a sacred practice, and going into it when we're sleeping as such. And then consciously calming the mind with holding this intention that we're going to remember our dreams. Not just the intention, but embodying the knowing, the feeling that we got this. We're going to have an amazing night of dreams again, and I'm going to record them. And there are other more detailed practices which I share with people. That my work is informed by a Tibetan Buddhist lineage, the Dzogchen teachings. And there's many, many books written about the Dzogchen or Bon.
Is there one to start with, maybe, that you can share that we can put in the show notes for people who want to dive deeper?
One of my favorites is the Tibetan Book of Dream and Sleep, from the Dzogchen lineage. And I'm trying to remember which of the two teachers that is who wrote that book. There's an author, a teacher, named Namkai Norbu, Nhamkai, I think, Norbu, who's written many things about the Dzogchen practice and philosophy and dream yoga, as they call it in the Dzogchen tradition. Highly recommend anything by Namkai Norbu. And the Tibetan book of, I believe that's what it is, the Tibetan book of Dream and Sleep. Is a wonderful start in the Dzogchen tradition. There's another book that I more commonly recommend as a beginner. It's called The Realities of the Dreaming Mind. And that book is by, I forget her name, but I'm in the process of creating a new website, and there's a references page that are a resources page that I'm creating, and I've got a whole bunch of links to videos there.
Super.
We'll find out later, and I just put the link into the show notes, and then also the link to your website.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Is there another way to reach out to you right now if somebody wants to work with you concretely on their dreams?
Yeah, probably email is best. My email address is lucas@eyesopendream.com.
Lucas with a Z.
With an S, Lucas.
Lucas, not with a K.
That's right, Lucas, not with a K like Jacob. But yeah, lucas@eyesopendream.com.
Beautiful.
And I'm in the process of converting everything over to a new domain where the new website will be, which is going to be live-the-dream.life. Live the dream.
Live the dream.
Life.
That's
what it's all about.
Lucas, to conclude our very inspiring and third eye-opening conversation, what are you dreaming of when it comes to the bigger picture, the world, the states that we're in? What are you dreaming of when it comes to the potential of humanity?
Wow. awesome question. And I believe this is really important. This is part of why I see dream work as such an important practice for people to be doing. The more of it that we do, the more that we see that the feelings and thoughts that we embody in the dream state and in our waking life shift the world around us in profound ways. In fact, possibly create the external world.
Yeah.
So, I think, people who are consciously dreaming and creating a new earth, a new humanity with harmony, connection, love, and presence are doing a wonderful gift, not just to themselves, but for the whole collective. More people who do this work, who find their way into these peaceful, loving, connected states of consciousness, the whole world is affected.
But when it comes to the state of the world that we live in right now, what is your vision?
I'm so optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's the children, the children give me so much hope, seeing the younger generation sees things from a different point of view. They're not carrying some of the programming and energy that the older generations have. So the vision that I see happening and unfolding, and we're part of it, all of us, is a world in which this fighting for myself kind of, I'm going to get everything I can for myself, how much can I make, shifts to what can I give? And living a life which is more about service to others, in addition to ourselves, but more about giving than taking, more about cooperation than self-interest and ego, and a world which is connected with the plants and the animals, all living beings and things. Perhaps even seeing that from one way of looking at it, they're also us. We're all kind of the same stuff in the dream that I see where we're moving to and through.
That's a beautiful dream that creates a lot of resonance in my heart. Cheers to that, and thank you very much for this beautiful conversation, Lucas.
You're so welcome. Pura vida.
Pura vida.
Schön, dass du dabei warst bei dieser Episode von 1000 First Steps. Wenn du dich über die Themen in dem Podcast gerne austauschen möchtest, dann lade ich dich herzlich ein, deine Gedanken unter dem aktuellen Post auf Instagram @jakob.horvath oder per E-Mail an mail@1000firststeps.com mit mir und der Community zu teilen. Ich freue mich immer sehr, wenn ich lese und höre, was der Podcast bei dir bewirkt, was er in deinem Leben zum Positiven verändert. Wenn das bei dir auch so ist, dann kannst du mithelfen, dass ihn noch mehr Menschen hören können, indem du ihn mit deinen Freunden teilst, mit deinen Bekannten, deinen Kollegen, zum Beispiel als Screenshot in deiner Instagram-Story. Es würde mir auch viel bedeuten, wenn du mir eine Rezension und eine positive Bewertung auf iTunes hinterlässt. Ich danke dir von ganzem Herzen. Wenn du auf dem Laufenden bleiben möchtest, dann freue ich mich, wenn du Teil der Community wirst und dich für meinen Newsletter anmeldest. Dort wartet auch ein kleines Willkommensgeschenk auf dich und Infos zu Podcast-Folgen, Meditationen, exklusive Updates zu Abenteuern aus meiner kleinen Welt und mehr. Den Link zum Newsletter findest du in den Shownotes und auf meiner Website 1000firststeps.com. Ich bin Jakob Horvath, Visionscoach, Meditationstrainer und Autor von Weltnah, raus aus der Komfortzone, rein ins Leben. Das Buch über meine 14-monatige Weltreise mit wertvollen Impulsen für deine persönliche und spirituelle Weiterentwicklung. Danke, dass du hier dabei warst, dass du den Podcast hörst, dass wir ein paar Schritte gemeinsam gehen können. Wenn du mit mir persönlich arbeiten möchtest, wenn du gerne teilnehmen möchtest an meinen Online-Trainings und Mentoring-Programmen, dann schick mir ein E-Mail und wir vereinbaren ein kostenloses Kennenlerngespräch. Wir hören uns nächsten Mittwoch wieder, wenn du möchtest. Bis dahin wünsche ich dir nur das Beste. Alles Liebe und Namaste, dein Jakob.